Welcome to Epic World Movies. Immerse yourself in the best movies and series from the action-packed to the romantic. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to support us. Never miss a release and be a part of this unparalleled film journey. When he wakes up, he finds himself on the back of the sea creature that saved him. It's the second time that he has been saved from death by this animal, after they both surfaced and he was able to breathe. He thanks the creature and notices that it only has one fin and the other is amputated. Additionally, he discovers a large hook in the creature's fin, which must have caused constant pain while swimming. Consequently, he decides to help the animal, just as it helped him, and removes the hook from its fin. He talks to the creature and tells it that he will be its friend from now on and will visit it soon. Finally, he brings the sea creature back to its family on the beach, where everyone is gathered and concerned about him, as he did not return on time for the first time. The leader of the tribe speaks up and blames his son for persuading the boy Jake to hunt outside the village, thereby risking the boy's life. But the protagonist defends Jake and says that it was not his fault, but that he himself decided to hunt outside the village, even though Jake had advised against it. Although the leader is convinced that the idea came from Jake, he respects the protagonist by not blaming Jake and preserving his dignity in front of the tribe. Eventually, he removes the punishment from Jake. The leader's son feels guilty because he was saved by a giant creature after betraying and leaving him with the creature. He tells his siblings and the leader's children about the incident and warns them about the creature named Toko, which is called a murderer because it has killed others. However, the son believes that the creature saved his life and feels grateful towards it. Despite the warnings, he goes back to the place where he met the creature to meet it again and prove that he trusts it and that it is not a murderer. Meanwhile, the leader's other children take the leader's daughter to a new location where she sees many glowing sea creatures that impress her greatly. She connects with one of them and then sees her deceased human mother, who was previously a friend of Jake's. The daughter is very happy about this and speaks with her mother before being overwhelmed by an epileptic seizure. Jake then contacts his friends in the forest and asks them to send a plane to treat his daughter, but his wife Nateri declines the help of doctors and instead asks a woman from the Navi tribe for assistance. The leader's wife stays with Nateri and her daughter and manages to heal them with traditional remedies. Jake brings the rest of the Tuconian tribe to the sea and celebrates with them, while all the Navi tribes come down to connect with them and exchange their knowledge and memories. Jake's children are happy to experience the animals and atmosphere of the ocean for the first time. Meanwhile, Quaritch's son visits the exiled Tuconian, with whom he connects mentally, and learns that he was not killed, but only defended himself against the attacks of the humans in self-defense. Meanwhile, Quaritch continues to search for Jake and pressures the Navi by killing an animal and threatening to kill one of them, until Spider stops him and asks him to leave them alone, as they know nothing. Spider says he can translate the language of Jake's children that he has learned. After translating their words, he makes sure that no one has information about Jake, and the contract accepts Spider's words. Before he leaves, he orders his men to burn all the huts as a warning of what could happen if Jake enters the village without their consent. When the leader of the Navi returns from the sea, he learns about the events in the tribe and tells Jake that the tribe's huts were burned due to Spider. He has also instructed the tribe not to reveal any information about Jake. Jake feels guilty for having destroyed the previously peaceful Navi tribe by deciding to live among them. He decides to leave the tribe with his children and meets the scientists who have tokotronic animals in the sea. One of them explains that they are very rare and important animals for humans. Jake decides to hunt them and kills one of the tokotronic animals with powerful arrows, injuring it and restricting its movements until it dies. They examine the body of the animal and dig a huge pit in its belly to extract a golden-colored liquid. The scientist explains that it is a magical liquid that protects humans from signs of aging or aging and prolongs their life, similar to immortality. For this reason, the liquid is very expensive, and a bottle cost $80 million. They also see the Navi, whose tokotronic animals were killed by humans, and the leader is sad because they were the spiritual sisters of the tokotronic animals killed by humans. The leader's wife collapses in grief because the killed token animal was her spiritual sister, and she blames Jake and his family for bringing war and destruction to the tribe. However, the Na'vi leader is wise enough to recognize that the war has begun and must end. Therefore, he says that Jake should not be banished from the tribe, but that everyone should fight together against the humans. Jake is the most important fighter in this war because he knows the humans best and understands their tricks. He has already defeated them in a previous battle. When Jake warns his outcast friend, he sees the leader's children and convinces them to follow him to save the outcast and his friend. However, it is too late when they realize that the token has been hit by an arrow from the humans. Jake turns to his father for help, knowing that he is in danger in the sea with the leader's children and his own, as it is a trap by the colonel to capture him. Jake informs the leader of the information he has received from his children and orders his tribe to prepare for the war that is imminent. Meanwhile, Jake's children try to pull the arrow out of the token animal in the sea, and they succeed in saving it before the colonel's men attack them. The children are surprised by what is happening around them and quickly flee underwater from the bullets. However, they are pursued by submarines that try to capture them. The children split up in the sea and try to escape the submarines and the bullets. Eventually, the colonel manages to catch them by setting a large net trap in the sea. The children are taken aboard the first ship, and Spider, Jake's son, screams and protests against their capture. He contacts Jake and threatens his children, saying that if he wants them to stay alive, he must command the person with him to withdraw and approach the ship alone. He gives him a short time to think, and then begins to kill his children one by one in front of his eyes. Jake is worried about his children and agrees to follow the commander's orders, asking the person with him to retreat, even though he knows that staying alone on the ship with the commander will likely result in his death, since their numbers are too great for Jake to defeat alone. Meanwhile, Neytiri flies on her dragon in the sky and watches what happens. She prepares her arrows to repel any human attack on her husband. The children scream and beg their father to return to their tribe and not follow the commander's orders, but he ignores their pleas and continues on his way to the ship, hoping to save them. Suddenly, the banished Tukonan of the sea appear and attack the ship, destroying it completely and wiping out all the devices and weapons on board. The scientists try to capture them, but they destroy their ships and planes, causing chaos that helps Jake hold things together and makes him feel brave again. He orders the rest of the tribe to attack, and due to the fear caused by the Tukonan and the weapons they destroyed, the war between the Na'vi tribe and the humans becomes much easier. A group of scientists pursues the Tukonan creature, trying to capture it, but they fail after the creature destroys their ship and kills all the scientists. The children are able to break free and join the fight to help their community and loved ones in the war against the humans. One of them, Spider, remembers that they are besieging him and that they must save him before the tribe defeats all the people on board. The ship's crew begins to search for Spider to free him from the human ship. After a fight between them, in which Jake's son is wounded by a bullet, they quickly flee to the hill and contact their father, who helps them bring Jake and Neytiri to their injured son. The son screams in pain and tells his father that he wants to go back and see his home, but after the war. His father promises him that he will come back to the forest with them after the war, but unfortunately, Jake's son dies in Neytiri's arms before he can fulfill his last wish, which is to return to his community. She screams in grief over her lost son, taken from her due to the war, while the colonel communicates with Jake and tells him that his 2 daughters are with him and he can see them again if he returns to the ship. Otherwise, he would lose them, as he did with his deceased brother. The colonel notices the absence of his daughters and tells Neytiri that he needs her to save his daughters. Jake encourages her and tells her that she is a strong woman, like when he first met her, and helps her prepare her sword before she goes with him to the ship. Spider joins them on the way, and once they arrive on the ship, Jake throws a bomb that causes a large part of the ship to explode and causes chaos among the colonel's men. Neytiri uses the chaos and begins to take revenge for her son by killing anyone she sees. Jake searches for his daughters on the ship and kills anyone who gets in his way until he meets one of his daughters and frees her. Suddenly, the Colonel appears behind him, holding his other daughter with a knife to her neck. He tells them to throw away all their weapons or he will kill them. Jake is afraid for his daughter and throws all his weapons away. But then Neteri appears with Spider and tells the Colonel to release her daughter, and she will release his son. She injures him with a strong cut to his neck. The Colonel tells him that he is not his son and that he does not care if he dies. But as soon as Neteri raises her knife to kill him, the Colonel throws away the knife, frees his daughter, and tells her to let his son go, just as she should let his daughter go. The Colonel tells Jake that the war between them is not over yet, and that he will return to settle his score with him. He will not leave Jake alone until he is sure that he is dead. But Jake has a different opinion and tells the Colonel that he will end everything now, and they begin to fight. The ship begins to sink, and they continue to fight until they drown in the sea. Jake manages to defeat the Colonel and lets him sink to the bottom of the sea. Jake saves his son, and they come out of the water before running out of oxygen. Spider sees the Colonel drowning in the sea and decides to save him because the Colonel saved his life when he was attacked by Neteri. Spider brings the Colonel to the beach, and they are revived. When the Colonel falls, he asks Spider to return and live with him, but Spider refuses because his family is Jake's family, not the Colonel's. Spider returns to Jake's family, who mourns their lost son. Jake remembers happy moments with his son, and finally decides to leave the Na'vi community. The leader refuses and tells him that his son is currently buried with his family, and if he wants to stay, he will be considered a brother. Jake agrees to stay with his family in the Na'vi community, and the movie ends.